Any experiences of stories specifically set in Scotland?
Like I said before, I mean, I write The Phantom, and it's always, you always think, well, where's another place to set a story involving the Phantom? Because the Phantom, for people who don't know, the Phantom is this character. He's the longest-running costumed hero. He's not a superhero; he's just a guy. But he mostly hangs out in the African jungle, wearing blue or purple bodysuit with striped underpants on the outside.
If you were in the African jungle, that's what you'd wear.
I'm thinking this is a guy who's like, he's fighting crime in the African jungle. You think he'd wear camouflage or green and try and blend in so he could have the element of surprise. No, he's wearing purple and yellow and black diagonally striped pants on the outside. It just seemed mental to me. But hey, that's the Phantom. But for that, for some reason I've ended up being the historical writer of the Phantom. I write all the past stories of the Phantom, and generally in those you tend to have him out wandering the world. He goes visiting the world. So I've actually written a couple of Scottish stories, if only because then I can go and take photos, an excuse to go and take photos of locations to use to be used for the artist as reference. So I did the inevitable body snatcher story in the Birkenhead style, which I also managed to chuck Frankenstein into it as well, and Mary Shelley all appeared in the same story. And that was a lot of going around in the tunnels of Edinburgh and digging up graves and taking the bodies and trying to resuscitate them. And the other one was, sometimes my editor used to have it, he will phone me up and say, I really like a story set in the Highlands called The Highland Murders, and could you set it in the year 1707? And I go, okay. And of course I know nothing about Scottish history. I'm not Scottish, I've lived here for 9 years, but I know nothing about Scottish history, so I have to go out and buy a book in the days before Wikipedia, or now I just go straight to Wikipedia.
Educational.
And then discovered that 1707 was when they did the Union and all sorts of stuff.
Everything fell apart.
Jacobites and stuff. So I did a story about that, and the Phantom somehow being involved in this, which bizarrely also has Man Friday in the story as well, but that was left over from somebody else's. But Wagner and Grant, if at all, will perpetually try and wheedle Scotland into a story. I think Alan sent was it the Punisher, who ended up the bad guys had a secret base in the Old Man of Hoy, which anybody who knows the Old Man of Hoy is actually quite a very small rock formation of one of the Orkney Islands.
It's a small man.
Well, obviously, and yet they had an entire secret base inside the Old Man of Hoy, which got blown up.
Sad,
but true.
Really hit the tourist industry.
And Alan's probably the worst perpetrator for this, because he's also had Batman, and Frank Quitely drew that one down when I went to Scotland. When I was on 2000 and Judge for Magazine, we did do the occasional story set in Scotland, notoriously a strip called Calhab Justice. Jim Alexander, Scottish writer, which wasn't actually that popular with readers, it has to be said. But I think that's more to do with the strip than the setting, quite frankly. But that did involve most of Scotland has been irradiated in the future. So it's the Calhab wastes for the most part. I think John Wayne has since blown up Calhab twice.
I think that's true, yes. He was something to blow up.
Indeed. But those are the examples I can think of.
How did Face McNulty go down with readers?
I think he's a hugely popular character. The difficulty is when you get somebody who can't write good Scots trying to write Minface. Anybody trying to, it just ends up like some very bad sort of Crankies version of Scots. And I should know because I once had to rewrite somebody's Strontium Dog story featuring Minface, and it was a lot of Yit and Ken and Throughs, and that was about the limit of my knowledge of Scots at the time. So, and the writer who had been on it before me was even worse. So yes, I think when it comes to writing in Scots, you should leave it to people who can actually speak it.